What's up, community? Just Jeremy here for another episode of Art of Life Homestead. Today we're talking goats. We have had goats for, I think, 4 years, the first 2 of which I resisted because the original intent for our goats was to get goat milk. That would have been a hilarious video to watch us wrestle and wrangle this goat who hated being milked and really kicked the only measurable amount of milk out of my wife's hand after about a 20-minute wrestling match between the 3 of us. It was pretty hilarious looking back on it. But the goats proved to be very difficult to contain until I figured out how to work or keep them in. They would make Houdini proud with their ability to escape captivity. And one thing about goats, okay, people say, oh, a goat will eat anything. Not true. They won't eat anything. But I tell you what they will eat when they escape. Everything you love. Rose bushes, briars and all. They will eat fruit trees, bark first. They make sure to strip the bark off of it so that the tree dies for sure. Blueberry bushes, they love them. Flowers, pretty much anything. Hibiscus, oh, there was another hilarious encounter. My wife had planted a hedgerow of hibiscus, and the goats got out one day and I watched them run to it. They literally ran as fast as they could to it and started mawing it. And while I raced yelling and screaming and throwing sticks and stuff at them, they ate as much as they possibly could until I almost got within touching distance of them, and then they just ran circles around me to go back to get the hibiscus. They really like it. But as far as eating anything, nah, that's not true. They eat a lot of things. They do a fabulous job of clearing, but they won't eat anything. That might be an old wives' tale. But our goats have been in this containment here, which is 235 linear feet of fence or so. They've been contained in this area for less than a month. All right, this area was this thick. It was this dense before we put them in there. And this super dark forested area behind me here is going to also get contained. That's my security alarm back there. Pay him no mind. So we put these guys in here because they had done such a fabulous job, and I'll show you where we moved them from, of cleaning up the area. And we want to make this a blueberry orchard. I would like to get about 50 blueberry plants in here because blueberries they grow really well here, and I'm sick of trying to fight with the land and plant stuff that I want to grow, and I'll plant stuff that I know that grows. Blueberries do awesome. This shed we just completed. I tried to do, we may maybe a year from now get the video finally edited of us actually building this whole area, the before and after. But I've learned that if I wait till I can get the editing done, I may never actually post a video on YouTube ever again, because I'm not a good editor, and I have a lot of other things in life that I want to be doing instead of sitting in front of my screen. But anyway, what we have is a 2-sided pen because we have 2 newer additions here. This is Lake and her baby Stormy, and that's Emerson. And the reason that we've kept them contained in this side is because they're new, and new goats, one herd and the other, with the new herd, there's usually a little bit of aggression. And because the baby is so small and super escape prone, that we had to keep her in this deal, which I built this fencing 3 years ago, and it nearly crippled me, but I completed it nonetheless. As kind of an experiment. It was for a pony. One thing on ponies, people. Don't ever think that getting a pony for your children is a good idea. If you think that goats and the devil are associated, that might be a misnomer. I believe that a pony would probably be the most evil creature on the planet. They're meaner than any other thing I've ever encountered. You think a goat can escape, you should have a pony. In fact, the guy that we ended up giving the pony to was an actual trainer of English style jumping horses, and she nearly killed him. And I'm not kidding you. She scared him so bad that he ended up giving her to a rodeo rider whose kids broke her and rode her around the front yard. Apparently, I would have loved to seen that, because Rosie was not a good experience for us. But, well, maybe she was. She taught us that we don't want ponies. We want full-size horses. But I digress. This area was originally for Rosie, but instead is now a goat containment for baby goat. This area was as dense as this was about 3 weeks ago, and you can see they've already, like, they basically need to be moved, which I have another paddock to move them into. I'll take you to where their old home was, and I'll show you the grand finished product of goat clearing. Okay, so we had our original 3 goats, and they're around. Actually, they're laying down on hay. Only treble was out. So they originally were right over here on the other side of the canoe in a much larger area that we just really kind of wanted to reclaim a little bit. And so we put them in here, and we did this. Nice thing about goats is they don't really require a super fancy enclosure. As you can see, this was their old enclosure, and it was completely scrapped material, including the cargo tarp roof, which actually served as a really good roof, you know, while for the couple of years that they were in there. But now we're going to completely overhaul this structure, and we're going to turn it into a proper chicken barn. We're trying to keep our chickens alive, because if you have free-range chickens, well, you're going to lose some, because we have so much cover here. I have dogs, and the dogs do a great job of keeping things away, but there's a lot of places to hide for fox and aerial predators, and I really like having the chickens out for a variety of reasons, but primarily they keep the ticks down, so, you know, I want them out. But anyway, this whole area here was goat containment, and it looked as dense as the other areas that I showed you, and now you can see it's beautiful. I'm going to plant some nut trees in here, and we're also going to turn this back region here into the new chicken run. It'll give the chickens a nice shady area and some sun and access to dust, because they have to dust bath themselves. But for now, it just needs, you see all of these trees like right here in front and here, what they've done is they stripped the bark off certain trees. So I'm going to come in here and clean those out with a chainsaw, just cut down the dead ones. I actually started on that back here yesterday, and I'll get this area nice and clean, and we'll have more usable space for whatever we want to do. I'm thinking service berries and or another variety of like wild blueberry that does pretty well here, or mulberries, because we have a male mulberry tree here. I would like to actually have the fruit. So anyway, that's what our goats accomplished. This area was theirs for, like I said, a couple of seasons. Now we're going to move them into another part of the orchard. Well, it's close. I have 4 trees in here. And one thing I didn't know, because, you know, I'm the kind of person that just does stuff before I really learn, which makes me what I call a hard way learner. I didn't know that apple trees and cedar trees don't mix. So naturally, the very first tree I planted was this tree. It's beautiful eastern red cedar. It's our living Christmas tree. However, it's about, less than 50 feet from where I intended apples to be. That won't work. Most likely what will happen was we'll get cedar rust or other issues related to cedars. So what I have over here now are peaches and pears, and the pears do really well. That's a pear at 12 o'clock there in front of me. Our biggest pear is over here, but this new paddock with the mobile goat shed there, and it's mobile because I can attach it to the tractor bucket and move it real easy. So this new paddock, which I'm gonna let grow up a little bit because they could demolish this in just a couple of days of browsing. So I'm trying to hold out a little bit to let this area grow a little more before I turn the goats out in here. But this way, what they'll do is they'll not only mow everything down, but they'll fertilize with their little poopies, and we'll have a pretty ready-made orchard to go. And then I also have an area across the creek, which I'll take you to. That's going to be the grand orchard, the legit orchard, the one that I plant after I actually know what the hell I'm doing orchard. I guess that would be my children's orchard by the time it's a real orchard. But we're gonna go across the creek with that, and I'll take you over there and show you that. It's a really big area, and it's a south-facing slope instead of what we're on is a north-facing slope here, and I get frost quite a bit. Well, if it freezes at all, I can guarantee you I get frost on these trees. And what I'm learning is there's certain varieties of trees that, you know, especially if peaches, they bloom really early, and here the first things to bloom are also the first things to get popped by frost. So you got to look for a later fruiting variety of things, at least in my region. I'm on USDA zone 7A if you want to be specific. But I've found a lot of things that say they grow in 7 will grow, but you don't get a lot of fruit because we have been having a lot of late frosts the last couple of years. So this right here, this area, as I'm in a pan left to right, this is about as big of an area as what the goats were originally in. There's some trees that are gonna have to go, but that's no big deal. It's mostly blackberries and other herbs. You would say, well, why would you want to get rid of the blackberries? We have so much abundance of blackberries on this whole property that I couldn't possibly pick them as it is. And the goats will eat the blackberries down to the ground. And I'll probably leave them in this for at least a year so that they get it real nice and not only cleared, but fertilized. And this is a relatively flat area here, and so and it gets good sun. This will make a good orchard, and it's close to the creek, so if we had to, we can utilize the water from the creek to water things. So that's goats past, present, and future, at least on our homestead. If you are going to go into the homesteading world and you want to get animals, you know, our experience first, well, the first things that we ever got were dogs. And I'm a dog person, so I love dogs. And you got to have them around to protect whatever kind of animals you have. In fact, we're actually going to look into a herd protecting dog like a Great Pyrenees, just to see if we can stop any kind of predation of anything altogether. But in the meantime, I would say in this order: chickens, ducks, turkeys, something like that, and then goats. Goats are excellent part of the homestead, and if you can get them to milk, which we can actually milk little tiny Lake. It's funny because she's so small and the little teats are that small, but hey, you can get milk from her. So you have that, and you also have a great yard keeper. The other thing that we're going to do with them is we're going to tether them to areas and let them just kind of eat in a circle, and that will be how I mow my yard. So I don't have to fool with an actual mower and all the crap that goes along with that. The trick there is going to be keeping that black dog behind me tied up then, because she won't hurt the goats, but boy does she like to play with them. And she sometimes plays a little rough. So anyway, that is how we do goats and what our plan is with them. Highly recommend getting them, like I said, and if that's going to be your thing. If you like this video, please give me a subscription and a like. And I believe I've finally figured out how to keep my comments on permanently. I love any kind of conversation that anyone would like to start that's constructive, and I would love to learn. You know, I'd love to hear your experiences if you have goats. And I know if you have goats, you have some stories of their escaping and demolishing of things you love, because that's kind of what goats do when they escape. Well, thank you all for watching. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you on the next one.